Hi guys, so today I'm going to be doing my labour and delivery story. Sorry it's been so long. It's 5.5 weeks ago that I actually gave birth, so some things may be a bit hazy, but I'm going to try and remember it as much as I can. So labour pretty much started on the 18th of December. I'd had a sweep 2 days prior, so it just finished the 48 hours that was meant to induce labour, so I don't actually think it was the, what is it called? The sweep. I don't think it was the sweep that caused it, because it was a bit over that, so I think this was just my time. When I first started getting cramps, it was about 9:30 at night, and the previous week I'd been going to bed really early, like 8 o'clock at night, but this night I thought, oh, I'll just stay up and read a book. Michael slept in the spare room because he'd been snoring and I had been getting hormonal, and I said I could not sleep in the same bed as him, so he was sleeping in the spare room. He went to bed about 9 o'clock, so 9:30 came and I started to get little cramps, and I was like, these are weird, and I thought they were just needing the toilet kind of cramps, so I kept on going to the toilet trying, and I was like, this is really annoying. I need to get up every like 10 minutes just to go to the toilet. And then after a while I thought, these are getting a bit closer together and they're getting a wee bit crampier, and I was like, okay, so I started to time them, just thinking, you know, it could be something. So I started timing them, and they were about 5 to 7 minutes apart, and I was like, oh, okay. So I went through to Michael and I said, Michael, I think this might be contractions starting. They weren't painful at this point, but I was like, just so you know, and yeah, I'll let you know what happens. I said to him to go back to sleep because I knew that the start of labour could take a while. So I said, I'll just go back to sleep. And then I went back, and then they started to come every 3 minutes, and they were kind of getting a bit painful now. So I went to the toilet and I ran myself a bath, and I came through to Michael and said, Michael, you need to stay up because these are just really sore. So he got up and I jumped in the bath, but every time I had a contraction, well, they were contractions at this point, I felt the need to stand up. I could not sit down and have one, I had to stand up. So the bath really just did not help. So I got out of it and I decided to phone the midwife, because at this point they were about 2 minutes to 3 minutes apart. So I was like, right, I need to phone now. And I phoned up and she said, right, come in to the maternity assessment unit. So I went through, tried to pack all the rest of the stuff in my bag while having quite painful contractions. I went through and Michael was in the bath, and he was, oh, I thought you would be quite a while. So he had to run out the bath, and it was all very hectic because we had to finish packing and out the door and to get a taxi because we don't have a car. So we had to get a taxi, and I was in the back trying not to make a noise every time I had a contraction. And when we got there, got put on a bed, they checked me and I was only 4 centimetres, which, well, it was like 3 to 4 at this point, so I was kind of gutted, but they said that they'd keep me in because I wasn't at the labour unit yet, and I was staying there, and they were getting like 30 seconds apart and lasting a minute, and they were painful, and it felt like I needed a push. Obviously I didn't need to, but it felt like I did. And they brought gas and air through, and because I was in such a kind of panic, the gas and air just didn't help because my breathing was just not right. I think it works if you breathe properly, but I was not breathing properly. I was a bitch to Michael. I bit him. Don't ask me why I bit him. I just thought it would help, and I was like, Michael, get away from me, you're crowding me, when I was having one. And then 2 seconds later I was like, Michael, why are you not here comforting me? I was I was a horror. And then I started to get even more deeper contractions, and they decided at about 11 I'd go to the labour ward. Yeah, so they put me to the labour ward, where they basically just, they were like, oh, we'll run you a nice bath. And I was like, oh, well, it doesn't really help because at this point I still need to stand up every time I had a contraction. And I was like, no, I can't. And then, but they ran me a hot bath and put some lavender in it, and as soon as I couldn't do it because I had to just stand up or like lean over whenever I had one, so it was just not doing anything. They brought the gas and air back, and it just wasn't helping, and I said, please can I have like an epidural or like something, because they're coming every 30 seconds. I wasn't having a break, and I was getting quite upset at this point. but they weren't really listening. They were like, oh, we'll try with the gas and air more, and I was like, it doesn't work. And Michael had to actually fight my corner, and he was like, look, we need to do this. So they checked me again, and I was, I don't know what I was, they checked me at about 3 o'clock in the morning, because I went in at like 11 o'clock at night, and to the hospital, and at 3 o'clock in the morning I was about 5 centimetres, so they were right. So they took me to the high dependency ward, because obviously you have to be monitored if you have an epidural. So they put a gown on me, and because I was completely naked at this point, your dignity just goes out the window when you're when you are in labour. They took me to the high dependency ward, and they hooked me up to like a monitor at the top of my tummy and bottom of my tummy, just to measure contractions and the baby kicking, I think, or movements, I don't know. And they said that the anaesthetist, I don't know how to say that, the guy that gives you the epidural would be a few hours, and I was in agony at this point. Every single midwife and doctor that came in kept on saying, these contractions come very thick and fast, has anyone checked her recently? Because they just thought this was like obviously me needing to push, because they were coming very regularly. Oh my god, I cannot speak today. So because he wasn't coming for a few hours, they thought it would be best to give me something else. And on my birth plan it was pethidine, so they gave me that, and it was quite good. That it goes in like a little drip in the back of your hand, and yeah, it was quite okay. It helped me like rest a bit. Obviously I still felt the contractions, but if I had a short labour I would have been okay with just having pethidine, I think. But because my labour was quite long, I obviously needed the epidural because I was just exhausted. So the pethidine helped, and I kind of had little cat naps here and there, and Michael had cat naps because we were both extremely tired, because by the time that was happening it was about like, I don't even know, 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock. So about 8 o'clock is when I actually got the epidural, and they basically sat me up and he tried 4 attempts to try and put it in, because obviously you can't move, and I was like choking on the gas and air because I was just having it so much. And when they finally got it in, the relief I felt, I just felt like a new woman. I applaud anyone that goes through labour without any pain relief, because I could not do it because I'm a wuss, and that epidural was just a godsend. I didn't feel anything. I felt a wee bit of pressure, like I could still tell them, like I was like, I'm having a contraction now, and they're like, yeah, but honestly I could not feel it at all. If I ever have, well, when I have another baby, I would love to have an epidural again if it's a long labour. So yes, I had that in, and my heart rate had started to get a bit fast, and obviously it raises when you're in labour, but they didn't tell me this at the time, but they were extremely worried about my thing. Oh, by the way, by the time I had my epidural in, I was 7 centimetres, I think. Yeah, 7 centimetres. So that was like 8 o'clock in the morning. So yes, they were kind of concerned, and my temperature was very high, so they brought in a fan to try and fan me, but I didn't feel very unwell. They were like, do you feel unwell? And I was like, no, I don't feel anything. So they were kind of concerned with that, and the doctors came in and they were getting kind of concerned, and I didn't know about any of this. They didn't tell me until much later on that they were very, very concerned. So I got a drip to keep my fluids up in case it was like, I don't know, whatever they thought it was. And yeah, then about 10 o'clock they checked me and I was 9 centimetres, and they decided at 11 if, did they break my waters at 9? Yeah, they broke my waters at 9, like 9 centimetres, so it was about 10 o'clock that they broke mine. And they said, the doctor came in because the doctor had to be there because they were concerned about me. They said if she's not went by such and such, then like we'll induce, like we'll have to try and get it out. So they were getting kind of concerned, and the baby's heart rate was going down every time I was having a contraction, which I didn't know about either until later on. And yes, so, but she decided to keep it a wee while because my temperature wasn't like too high, but they ended up, it was about like, they were meant to induce me at like 11, I think, but no, well, not induce me, but like help me along. It was actually about like half 11 that they took a what is it? Oh no, it must have been 11 o'clock that they took it. They took a little, they had to open my legs in stirrups and take blood from the top of the baby's head just to see if she was stressed or if she was getting enough oxygen, and the test came back that she was absolutely fine with plenty of oxygen. So they left me another hour, even though I was 10 centimetres at this point, but because I had an epidural they wanted her to kind of move down a bit more, which I never knew they did that. I always thought if you were 10 centimetres that was when you pushed, but apparently they like to keep you waiting a bit. I never knew this. So yes, that happened, and it was about 11:45 that they decided to kind of like start to put me in stirrups and check me. And yeah, because I started pushing at, what time was it? 12:07 I think it was. I started to push. Yeah, it must have been. It was 12:07 I started to push in the afternoon, and I started pushing, and they said if she does get too stressed then we will use forceps or a venturus, I think it's called. So I was like, okay, and I started to push and they were like, oh yeah, you're doing well, you're doing brilliant, blah 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 blah. But like 3 minutes, 5 minutes later they were like, right, I think we're gonna have to use the forceps. And I was like, okay. So I must have not been doing as well as they were saying I was. Probably because I had an epidural and I couldn't push as fast as I wanted to, because the baby was getting stressed at this point and her heart rate was going down. I could hear it, and my heart rate was going through the roof. Like, it kept on buzzing because it sounded like I was dying, which was quite scary. So they got the forceps, they put my legs in stirrups, they cut me, and they pulled, I think it took 2 tugs with the forceps, and she was out 12:15, so my labour was about 8 minutes long, which is not long at all, but I did have help. So yes, I had 4 steps delivery. She didn't have much bruising on her face, because they said obviously she'll have bruise. She had a little tiny bruise there. The most that she had on her face was scratches, because she just went for her face. And they put her up on my tummy, well, on my chest, and she cried. Yes, they placed her on my chest, and it was the most surreal moment. I didn't cry, which I'm quite surprised at, but it was just so surreal, and it was just a really amazing moment. Like, I just felt so much love for her, and it was just instantaneous, and I was like, oh. And Michael was like, oh, well enough, and it was just a very emotional time, obviously, because I'd just given birth. And obviously when I was doing that, they were pushing my stomach, and Michael said there was a lot of blood clots just falling down to the floor, which is not nice, and they stitched me up. They didn't tell me how many stitches I got or anything, but obviously I had to have stitches. So that was my labour and delivery. Michael cut the cord as well, so that was always nice. And it didn't take long for my placenta to come out. I can't remember the exact time. I think it was like 15 minutes for it to come out. 10 minutes? I don't know, I didn't really read the sheet. Because I totally didn't realise that they take away your pregnancy notes, so I forgot to read the notes. Damn it. So yeah, we phoned my mum and dad, and they were like extremely happy, and they were heading down because obviously it takes them a few hours to get down from Scotland. And yeah, then Michael phoned his family, and he phoned his friend because he had to leave like half an hour after she was born, because my mum and dad were coming down. He had to tidy the house and everything, so, and we have a dog, so he had to let the dog out. So I was quite upset. Oh, she's waking up. So yeah, he left half an hour after, so I just had some bonding time with her. And later on the woman came in, she gave me like a bed bath because I still couldn't really walk because the epidural had made my legs heavy. I could still move them, but they were heavy. And she just kind of washed down there, and like I washed my underarms and everything like that. And the baby was, she dressed the baby herself, and I was wheeled up to the place that you go after you give birth, and I was put on a little, in a room with two other women. There was a spare bed next to me, so there was only 2 other women in, and they both had babies in incubators. And yes, they gave me, well, they didn't actually give me a jug of water until later, but they have to give you water and see if you pee within 6 hours. She latched on, like she still had a funny latch at the start, and I was kind of getting a bit anxious, but she started to latch on properly, and it was hurting though. And I asked the midwife, I said, am I doing this right? Because obviously I heard that it wasn't meant to hurt that bad. And she was like, oh yeah, you're doing it fine, she's doing everything. But as I will tell you in my breastfeeding story, she obviously was not properly. She was getting enough milk, but she just wasn't latched on properly. And that caused my nipples to be extremely sore. So yes, that night my mum and dad came to visit, and then Michael's mum and dad, and Michael obviously, and then he left. And then that night was awful because every single baby, if one baby cried, it set the rest off, and it was just a horrid night. And I couldn't really stand up properly because obviously the stitches really hurt, and it was not a nice night at all. Next morning we got discharged from the hospital at 4 PM the next day, so from 12 till 4 the next day, so that was like a day and a half in hospital. 28 hours. I can't do maths. So yes, she was allowed home. She weighed £7.14 when she was born, which is always good. Her hearing test was scary because they did the first one, but they couldn't get a response from one of the ears, and I was like, okay. So they came back later on the day to do it, and luckily it worked, so it was perfectly normal. They said it probably just had some fluid in the ear, but that kind of scared me a bit. And everything else was totally fine. So yes, that was my labour and delivery story. So yes, this is Laura. She's now 5.5 weeks, and she's very starey and a grumpy baby, but she has some smiles in her. You gonna smile? You gonna smile? No, you're just grumpy. You're just grumpy. Are you grumpy? Yeah, she's grumpy. So yeah, this is her little outfit today. Pretty. So yes, thanks for watching. Bye.